So in the last class, I guess we have defined what is a portal. Okay, all of you have given the right answers. So basically, you can say a grid portal is a web-based gateway that provides a seamless access to a variety of backend resources. So as we know, in grid computing, we will be having number of grid resources which are going to be there at the backend, right? Now, in order to access all those grid resources, we have to have some sort of interface. So that interface is going to be provided with the help of these grid portals. Okay, so these are the interfaces, or you can also say that these are the web-based gateways. Fine. And they do provide number of things. For example, personalization, single sign-on, and content aggregation. Personalization means it will provide you the view the way you want it to have, right? For example, you want to have, okay, the moment you log into the portals, all the CPU utilizations, you want to have a look in the first instance, right? So the moment you log into the portals, first of all, you just want to see all the CPU utilization. Okay, how many CPUs are being utilized at a particular organization, or you can say what is the status of all the resources, how much resources are free, or the resources, how many resources are being used by how many persons, like that. So it depends upon you. So you can set the things the way you want. So this is why we can say that these portals are going to provide you the personalization facility, right? And with a single sign-on, you can access multiple things. So let's say if you have got n number of things, then it is not necessary to log in n number of times to access those n number of resources. Okay. Apart from that, if you have got multiple information, then that multiple information can be aggregated and can be presented simultaneously to the user. So these are some of the basic features of a portal, right? So this was the another way of defining the grid portals. So you can say that these are the web-based facilities that provide a personalization or the personalized single sign-off, single point of access to the grid resources that support the end user in one or more tasks, right? Then we started discussing the types of grid portals. So there can be two types of grid portals. The first one is first generation grid portals, and the other one is second generation grid portals. So this is how your grid portals look like. So these all we have seen in the last class. And again, the same points, right, which we have already discussed. Apart from that, there can be two types of grid users. The first one is system developers, and the other one is the end users, right? So these two we have discussed in the last class. And these are the some of the existing grid portals, so you guys can check onto them. Some of them might be working. Now, this is the architecture of first generation portals. So I guess this also we have discussed in brief in the last class. So let me discuss it once again. So as we can see that these first generation portals is consist of, yes,
Sir,
yeah,
sir, sorry to interrupt, but the slides are not visible, sir.
okay,
So it's visible, but it's not changing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
Yes, sir.
showing grid portals here.
okay. Just let me do it once again. Now can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these were the grid portals. Okay, this is where we have defined grid portals, right? And these are the facilities which are, or these are the features of grid portals. And there are basically two types of grid portals: first generation and second generation. So these are some of the snapshot of some of the grid portals, right? Okay, so these are the basic things which we already discussed. So there can be two types of grid users. The first one may be the system developers, and the other one may be the end developers, right? And these are some of the examples of grid portals. And this is how the architecture of first generation portal look like. So it consists of 3 tiers. The tier one is consists of the web browser through which a client access the grid resources, and in tier two we do have the management services which are going to be provided by the web servers. So at first web browser is going to interact with the web server, which is in turn is going to manage all the credentials, and all these credentials are going to manage with the help of a proxy server, proxy credential server. Okay, so the moment any new user try to access these resources, so first that user has to register to the web server with the help of a proxy credential server, and the moment it get registered, so the next time it can verify or it can validate its credential to the web server with the help of proxy credential server. And after verifying or after validating all the credentials, the access to the grid resources is provided by the application manager. Okay, so all the resources or the access to the grid resources is going to be provided with the help of application manager after the validation of credentials, and all these logs are also going to be managed in the event database. Okay, so that can also be used to monitor the overall uh, process at the portal. Okay, so this is how the things look like, and of course the grid resources may have the grid resources maybe your databases, okay, maybe some specialized devices, maybe some HPC computers, maybe your disk storage, or maybe some sort of form of networks, some equipments and all, right? So this is how your first generation portal look like. So in the first tier, the client is there. In the middle tier, all the validation took place, and in the third tier, all the resources are usually placed. Okay. So as discussed earlier, it does provide the it does provide the service of authentication. That means when user access the grid via portal, the portal can authenticate users with their usernames and password. So how the authentication is going to provided? They can provide the authentication service by allocating a unique username and a password to the user. Okay, so the moment a user is in the need of accessing some grid resources, that user need to present their username and password. Okay, and after a successful authentication, a user can access to all the grid resources which are there in the portal. Fine. And it provides job management services. So the moment we talk about job management, then the jobs can be provided serially or parallelly, right? So it may be possible that you want to have number of things at the same time. So in that case, parallel services has to be provided to the user, right? Apart from that, it has to launch the desired applications, and it may possible that you want to monitor the status of the task, or it may possible that you want to pause some of the tasks, or you want to cancel some of the tasks. So all those things can be handled with the job management thing, which are going to provide it with the grid services. Then the data transfer. So the data transfer can be done in the two ways. In the first way, the user is trying to upload some data to the grid, and in the second, the user is trying to download this some data from the grid. So all these things are going to be provided by the grid services. Apart from that, the informations regarding the resources which are there in the grid, right? So the discovery of those things are also going to be provided. Apart from that, the information regarding the resources, and those resources can be your operating system, your CPU type, and what is the load on the CPU, or how much memory is freed at that time, what is the status of the network. So one might be interested in knowing all these status. Okay, and apart from that, what is the job status, what is the queue information. Okay, so all those things can be retrieved with the help of these information services. Apart from that, if we talk about the implementation, as of now, we have just discussed what is a grid portal, what are the features of grid portals, and if you talk about the grid services, then what are some typical grid services, right? And now, if we try to focus on the implementation part, then all these grid portals are generally use these Globus Toolkit 2 version 2. Okay, so all
Sir?
the population, yes.
Sir, actually it's showing first generation portals here. Slide is not changing here.
Okay, slide is not changing.
Yes, sir, now it's changing. Now it's showing implementation.
Okay. Just hold on for a while. I'll just close it and then open one second. Now the slides are changing.
So grid services it is showing.
Okay, so you cannot see the other points.
So here it's grid services provided it is showing.
Okay, because I am changing the slides over here. Okay.
So with mouse if you're changing then it's changing, sir. Probably with keyboard it's not changing.
Okay, is it? Now?
Yes, implementation it is showing.
Only implementation, right?
Yes, sir.
Thereafter?
Yeah, means the content is showing the first generation grid portals mainly use. 40th slide it is showing, sir.
Okay. Now, what can you see? Can you see
No,
the
sir.
next slide?
No, sir.
No?
Implementation only.
Okay. Okay, anyway, so we will just.
Yes, sir. Now it is showing more.
Yeah, so let me just.
Yeah, explicitly when you're selecting, then it is showing.
Yeah. Okay, let us finish today's class this only. Okay, so I guess I have already discussed. This is how the architecture of first generation portals looks like. So this has been already discussed. So I guess all of you have already got the concept, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in the tier 1, all the client things will be there. In the tier 2, all the validation will take place, and in the third tier, all the actual grid resources will be there. Okay, and these are the services which are going to be provided by the grid. So mainly authentication, job management, data transfer, and information services, right? So all these are the basic services which are going to be provided by the grid. Fine. Then if you talk about the implementation, then the implementation of all the grids can be done with the help of GT2. So specifically, if we talk about the first generation grid, then it is basically implemented with the help of your GT2, Globus Toolkit 2. Okay. And the main reason behind using this particular tool is that it provides a single stop solution. Okay, so all the things are basically can be provided with this particular toolkit, which is your GT2. Okay, so this is the main reason of using this GT2. So it provides a, or you can say it's a complete package which can provide all the facilities which a grid want to have. Fine. Apart from that, if you talk about the creation of grid portals, so generally a dynamic, because dynamic content are somewhat challenging and somewhat complex. So generally a dynamic graphical user interface of any grid portal is basically based upon some HTML pages only, right? and some dynamic contents can be created with the help of some Java server pages for the Java script. So this is how typically a grid portal is being created. Apart from that, some CGI and Perl can also be used, okay, to create some of the portals. Apart from that, some other technologies are also there. So these are the two general ways of creating some grid portals. And if we talk about the establishing communication in between the user and the grid portals, then it easily done with the help of your transport layer security, okay, TLS, and HTTPS. Okay, so secure connection in between the browser and the backend server is usually done with the help of these things. Okay, TLS and secure HTTP. Apart from that, if you talk about the server technology, okay, so that server technology is generally being handled with the help of Java Servlet or the Java Beans. Okay, and these can be used to serve the services which are being requested from a user or which has been requested from a user. Okay, apart from that, if a particular user have requested to access a particular resource, then all those resource access or those resource requests can be handled with this Java Servlet or the Java Beans. Okay, so as you know, the Java Beans generally encapsulate multiple objects into a single one, right? So these are some of the implementation technologies which can be used to implement the first generation grid portals. Am I clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So more specifically, if you just try to validate the credentials, then there is a one tool or the mechanism which you can refer as a my proxy. So the my proxy is one such tool, and GT2 GSI is the other tool, and these can be used to provide the these two can be used to provide the authentication to the user. Okay. Apart from that, if we talk about the allocation manager, resource allocation manager, then this particular protocol can be used. Okay. If we talk about the information discovery and all, then this tool can be used. If we talk about the file transfer services, then this particular tool can be used. Okay. And Java commodity grid can be used to provide all the Java related libraries. Okay, or all the Java features can be incorporated with the help of this particular things. So these are the things which can be used to create a overall grid experience smooth. Okay. So as I've been already told that my proxy can be used to provide all the credential management services to the grid, right? So generally, it is used to delegate a user's proxy credential to the grid portals. Means with this, one can validate the credentials of the client, right? Apart from that, it can also be used to store all the grid credentials, right? And it basically allows you to retrieve a proxy credentials whenever and wherever you need one. Okay, so it may be possible that you want to use the grid resources after some time or at any time. So you must be able to access all those grid resources if you are a legitimate user. Okay, so it must provide a 24/7 facility, 24/7 access facility to all the grid resources. Okay, so it must be up all the time. Fine. Apart from that, there is one more thing, and that is you can also allow trusted servers to review your proxy credentials using my proxy. So it may be possible that there are some tasks which may take a long time, and by that time your credential may expire. Okay, or the session may expire. So your my proxy will provide a flexibility or will provide a feature that will handle or you can say that will take care of all those sort of things. So basically the long running tasks do not fail due to an expired proxy credential. Okay, so this is how the things look like. So in this diagram you can see the first user registered with the my proxy server and gets all the credentials. And then in the second step, the user present all the credentials to the grid portal. And in turn, grid portal verifies all the credentials from the my proxy server. So if the credentials are valid, then the access to the grid resources are provided to the user. So this is how the typically overall flow looks like. Okay. And the Java commodity grid, we often termed it as a COG. So this is a kit which provides access to GT2 services through some Java APIs. Okay. So as we know that GT2 is basically responsible to create some portals, right? And your COG kit facilitate the access to the GT2 services. Okay. So if you talk about what is the goal, then you can say the goal of the Java COG kit is to provide grid developers with the advantage to utilize much of the global functionality. So it is going to provide the number of functionalities, number of things, and all those things, and the access to all those things or functionality or services can be enabled or can be facilitated by the Java commodity grid. Okay. Apart from that, it also provides access to number of additional libraries and the frameworks which are generally being developed by the Java community. Since we all know that Java community is a very active community, so number of things come day by day, okay, or new things come on regular basis. So all those things, all those new things, or the libraries and the frameworks can be added to the GT2 services with the help of this COG. Okay. And if we talk about the next version of GT, then it does integrate a part of Java COG. Okay. So with this, some inbuilt command line tools which are there in COG has already been integrated in GT3. Okay. So this is all about Java commodity grid. Apart from that, there is one more thing called as a grid port, and is a Perl-based grid portal toolkit. Okay, another toolkit, and again the purpose is to facilitate the access. So you can say the purpose of GP2 was to facilitate the easy development of application-specific portals. Okay, so we have seen one of the tool which can implement the portals, and this is the another toolkit called as a grid port, and it is known as GP2. Earlier one was GT2. Okay, and this one is GP2. So GP2 is basically a collection of services, scripts, and tools. And what this does, this basically allows the developers to connect web-based interfaces to the backend grid services. Okay, this is what is the role of grid portals, right? So whenever any person come to the portals, they must be able to access the grid resources at the backend, right? So again, they make the use of some services, scripts, and tool to allow any user to connect with the backend grid services. Okay, so it does provide a web-based interface. Apart from this, the script and tool provide the consistent interface between the underlying infrastructure, which are based on grid technologies such as GT2 and standard web technologies such as CGI. Okay, so the consistent interface means it must not be there. This thing must not be there that someone is trying to access the grid resources and in between the connection get lost. Okay, so the interface has to be consistent, right? And the consistent may be in the content, the content showcasing. For example, the first time you are logging into any grid services or in the any grid portal, then let's say you are seeing 4 number of services, and the moment you try to access next time the same thing, then you are trying to see, or then you see the 5 services. So the information shown to you must be consistent. Okay, So this is how the grid port looks like. So again, there is a client layer which is generally used by all the client application to access with the grid portals. And in the second tier, the portal services has been divided into two layers. The first one is called as a portal layer, and the other one is called as a portal services layer. And all these things are generally being managed by the web server. Okay. And at the backend, we have a dedicated layer called as a grid services layer. Okay. And this layer is responsible to manage all the credentials as well. Okay. So this grid services layer will look after all the resources which are there in the grid, as well as it will also take care of all the credentials of the clients. Okay. So if you talk about the client layer, then you can say that it represents the consumers of grid portals, typically the web browsers, your personal device assistants, or even the applications capable of pulling data from a web server. So this client layer represents all those tools with which you can access any grid resources. So it may be a web browser, it may be any device, okay, or even some applications which can retrieve the data from the web server. Okay. And if you talk about the portal layer, then it is going to consist all the portal specific codes. So it is basically going to support the multiple concurrent application portals. Okay, so one might be interested in having access to the multiple resources. So this portal layer is going to handle all those multiple access at a time. Okay, so with the help of this, one can also share libraries, file space, and the other services. So these are basically some of the things which are going to be taken care with the help of the portal layer. And if you talk about the portal services layer, then this is where the GP2 and the other portal toolkits or the libraries resides. Okay, so this is the place where all the basic things are going to be stored, and these things can be your toolkits and can be your libraries. Okay, so it is also responsible for the management of session states and the portal accounts and the grid information services with GT2 management discovery services. Okay, so these things are generally being managed with this portal services layer. Okay, and the last layer is your grid services layer. So this particular layer is going to take care of all these grid resources which are there and how all those resources are going to be accessed. So number of protocols will be defined and number of protocols will be used. So these already have been discussed in detail in the earlier slides, right? So this is basically responsible to provide access to all the grid resources. Along with that, it also take care of all the credential services as well. Okay, so in short, we have discussed two types of portals, or the example of two portals. The first one was your GT2 and the other one was GP2. Okay, so these are some of the things, and this is the another one, GPDK. Okay, and this is the another way of implementing the portals. So as we can see, this time all the Java portals have been implemented with the help of Java Server Pages, and in the middle layer we have got Java Commodity Grid Beans. Okay, so now this time this and these are being used to provide the access to the grid. Okay, and all the credential services are going to be managed by Java Commodity Grid Beans this time. Okay, so this is the variety of ways through which the first generation grid portals can be implemented. Okay, so number of grid portals are there. So one may have been implemented with GT2, one may have been implemented with your GP2, and one may have been implemented with this GPDK. Okay, so these are the variety of grid portal implementations. Fine. And these are the comparison in between these first generation grid portals. So we have discussed grid port 2.0, we have discussed GPDK, and two other grid portals such as the NINF and grid speed are also there. So this is a comprehensive chart which shows the comparison between these four types of first generation grid portals implementation. Okay, each one of them has got their own variety. For example, if you talk about grid port 2.0, then the portal pages are generally being made by HTML, and in case of GPDK, it is being generally made by JSP. Okay, so similarly, all the comparative data have been provided in this particular table. Fine. Any question till now, students?
No, sir.
Okay. So this was all about your first generation grid portals. Now let us move towards the second generation grid portals. Now there were several drawbacks of first generation grid portals, and the first one of them that they were failed to address the content aggregation in an efficient way. Okay, so that was the first drawback, and to eliminate those drawbacks, the second generation grid portals have come into picture. So in second generation grid portals are generally came to overcome the limitation of first generation portals. And what is special in second generation portals is that over here we make the use of some portlets. Okay, and by using this, there are several things which have been incorporated with this. So let us see what those things are. So this is how the basic layout of second generation portals look like. So the overall view can be divided into two categories. The first one is the portal client and the other one is portal server. So all the requests can be represented in the number of portlet views. Okay. For example, over here one can see the CPU utilization. Okay. Here one can see the memory utilization. Okay. One can see the resources which are engaged. Okay. One can see the resources which are free or which are being used by a particular organization. So over here, the different things can be represented or can be kept in different views. Okay, and all these views are basically handled by a separate portlet in the portal server. Okay, and this portal server have a portlet container which is handling all these individual portlets. So this is the basic overview of second generation portals. Fine. So from a user perspective, a portal is nothing but a window in a portal that provides a specific service, and these services can be a calendar or a news feed. Okay, so from the user point of view, it is nothing but a window where you can see the things of your interest, some specific things. Fine. And from an application development perspective, it is a software component which can be written in Java or basically written in Java, and usually it is managed by a portlet container. Okay, and the job of this portlet is to handle all the user requests and generate the dynamic content which have been demanded by the user. Okay, so from the user point of view, the thing which have been requested is going to be there in a window, and from application point of view, all the requests are going to be generated dynamically. Okay, with the help of some code which has been written in Java. Now, if you just try to put a portlet into a words, or if you try to define a portlet, then you can say the portlet or the portlets as pluggable user interface components, and which are very much capable of passing the information to a presentable layer of a portal system. And in other words, you can also say that it is Java technology based web component which is generally being managed by a portlet container, and that can process requests and can generate dynamic content. Fine. And the content generated by a portlet is generally called as a fragment. And this fragment is nothing but a chunk of information which is generally being represented with the help of HTML or XHTML. Okay. So obviously it is going to adhere all the rules of the waves. Fine. Apart from that, the content of a portlet is normally aggregated with the content of the other portlets to form a portal page. So as we have seen in the overview diagram, that in a portals there can be number of portlets, and the moment you put all the portlets together, so it can form a portal page. So in short, the information received from various portals can be placed at a single place. Thereafter, a portlet container manages the life cycle of the portlet in a portal. So that means it can pause, it can resume, it can kill. So all those things are generally can be done with the help of portlet, with the help of the container manager. Okay, with the portlet container. And the integration component between the application and the portlets and the portals that enables delivery of an application through a portal. So this portlet is nothing but it is an integration component. Integration component in between whom? In between the application and the portals. Okay. Apart from that, it also eliminates the vendor specific portlet APIs, and the applications can be delivered through any portal almost immediately. So this is one of the very attractive feature, that the moment any user requests for any content, so that content can be made available to the user almost immediately. Okay, so the response time in second generation portals are less as compared to the first one. Okay. Client portlet interaction. So the web client interact with the portlet via request response paradigm implemented via portal. So over here we are trying to see that how a client is going to interact with the portlet. So that interaction is again going to take place with the help of a web, and with the help of that web again a request is going to be generated, and the portlet is going to respond the client back. Okay. And normally user interact with the content produced by portlets. For example, a client may interact with portals by following links or submitting forms, resulting in portal actions being received by the portals. So it may be possible that a client may interact with the portals by submitting a form, or there may be a number of redirections. For example, if you click on one link, then another page will open, and there will be one more link. If you click on that link, then another page will open. So number of redirections may be there, and they may be responsible to trigger a particular portlet application. Okay, and at the gate, the result is going to be provided or is going to be presented to the user with the help of a response. Fine. And of course, the content generated by a portlet may vary from one user to another. Okay, so it is not necessary that the same content or the content is going to be same for all the user. So if there are n user, then it may possible that they may get a different thing. Just a minute. Okay, so it may possible that if n number of users are there, then each and every user are getting a different view for the for their corresponding request. Okay. Apart from that, a portlet contains an implementation of model view control pattern. And what is that model view control pattern? It is basically something like this. So all this servlet response is basically generated or is basically converted into the portlet request and response mechanism. So again, some portlet invocation interface mechanism is going to be there, and some control mechanism which is going to look after the view which is going to be provided to the user, and the model which is going to be used to present all this web content is going to be there. Okay, so this is how the portlets function at the backend. Now there comes a question: if this is a job done by portlets, then how they differ from the servlets? So there are several differences in between the portlets and servlets. So if we talk about the portlets, then they are the specialized and more advanced form of Java servlet. Okay, and they typically run in portlet container inside of a servlet container. Okay, which is a layer that runs on the top of an application server. Fine. Now, like Java servlet, portlets portlet process HTTP requests and produce HTML output, for example, with JSP, but their HTML output is only a small part of a web page. So in Java servlet, if you just place a request, then you get a response which might contain the unnecessary information. Okay, but in case of Java portlets, only you get the relevant information, and that is quite small as compared to a typical web page which is going to be provided when you talk about the Java servlet. So only the portion of the information in which a user is interested, only that portion is only being provided to the user. Okay, and at the end, the portal servers may fill the rest of the page with the headers, footers, menus, and the other portlets. Okay, so this is the difference. Basic difference. Apart from that, the portlets are administered in dynamic and flexible way, while the same thing is not true in case of your Java servlet. Okay. Apart from that, since these are being managed dynamically, that means that can be created and deleted whenever required. Fine. And this will also facilitate the users to install them dynamically or to remove them dynamically, right? Apart from that, an administrator with the appropriate access rights can also change the setting of the portlet. So you can see there are so many things which can be done dynamically with portlets, while the same things are not true with servlets. Okay. So apart from that, what portlets cannot do, they cannot redirect the thing. Okay, while the servlets can do it, and they cannot send the errors directly to the browser. Okay, they cannot forward the request, and they cannot write arbitrary markup to the output. Fine. So basically, portlets rely on portal specific infrastructure functions only. Fine. And as I have already discussed, that portlets are administered more dynamically than the servlet, which is a big advantage of portlets. Okay. So you can say the portlets have got many standard features that are not available to the Java servlets. So one such key feature is the built-in support to automatically use different JSP interfaces with the different user devices. So that means if you got number of devices, then the information can be presented to all those different devices. There is no need to make any change in the original code. Okay. For example, let us say only CPU utilization you want to present to the user, and a user is accessing the grid resources from a mobile or maybe from a desktop or from a workstation. So all those things can be provided with all those different devices without any remarkable change in the native code. Okay, so this is one of the best feature of portlet. Yeah, so by reusing the same underlying business logic, the portal server will choose the most appropriate rendering for each client. Okay, so this is what I have just discussed. Okay, so without changing the underlying business logic, the portal server will choose the most appropriate rendering for each client, and each client may access the grid resources with the different devices. Okay, apart from that, user can even have multiple portlet controllers, which allows different page or action sequences to be used for each device type. Okay, so this will also enable the number of users to access the number of different devices, and of course those devices can be accessed in the variety of ways. Okay, so some action sequence may be there, and those action sequences can be changed. Fine. So these are some of the advantage which one get with the help of the portlets in second generation grid portals. Okay, so any doubt, any query, students?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so all of you are required to just go through it. Okay.